Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating story from our source material. We're going to examine the super fleeting, kind of superficial nature of extreme earthly wealth and contrast it directly with the profound fulfillment of spiritual faith, specifically the ultimate eternal promises laid out in Islamic theology. We'll be doing this by following an incredible real-life journey and then breaking down the structured theological promises of the afterlife. It's a literal journey from temporary luxury to eternal perfection, and we have some absolutely incredible ground to cover today. Seriously, I want you to ask yourself a question. What on earth makes someone just up and walk away from a life of private jets, royalty, and absolute extreme luxury? Imagine living a literal fairy tale, a life most of us only ever see in movies, and then deciding to give it all up in an instant. Well, today we are exploring the source material that documents the life of a German woman who did exactly that. We'll look at her story and the profound theological concepts that convinced her it was absolutely the right choice. Section 1. The illusion of false luxury. So our sources introduce us to Patricia Vincko. She's a German ex-Christian who, during a summer language course in London, had a chance encounter at a cafe that just completely flipped her world 180 degrees. She met two young men, and it turned out one of them belonged to an incredibly wealthy, noble Arab family. This chance meeting led to a 4-year relationship where she was suddenly thrust into this unimaginable VIP life. And we aren't just talking about nice dinners here, okay? She was living the ultimate princess lifestyle. We're talking flying on Concorde jets, being catered to by a whole army of chauffeurs, maids, and personal chefs. She recounts cruising the streets of London in brightly colored Rolls Royces and the latest Jaguars, riding a yellow Harley Davidson through Los Angeles, and even meeting Michael Jackson. I mean, it was absolute peak earthly luxury. But here's where we get a massive pattern interrupt. Even with all this extreme luxury around her, Patricia and her partner actually spent a lot of time discussing religion, respect, and dignity. At first, she held this pretty common stereotype that Muslim women were oppressed. But as he explained Islamic values to her, she had this huge realization. She started wondering, wait, if beauty is dictated by the fashion industry, how free am I really? Am I truly free to choose who gets to see my body? Or is that whole idea just an illusion? She realized that modesty could actually be a profound form of liberation, prioritizing your internal values over just external appearances. Section 2. Call of Nature and Certainty. So during a visit to her partner's home country, she's finally removed from the daily hustle and all the social media distractions, and she finds herself with a lot of quiet time. To pass the hours, she starts reading books and watching these old VHS tapes of prominent Islamic scholars like Ahmad Didat and Jeffrey Lang. And this quiet reflection, it opened the door to a massive intellectual shift for her. She started learning about the scientific miracles in the Quran. Think about it. She's reading how a text from over 1,400 years ago accurately described fire deep in the sea, or the fact that mountains have these deep roots stabilizing the Earth's crust, or that the sun produces its own light while the moon just reflects it. For Patricia, this was totally mind-blowing. She realized an illiterate man in the desert couldn't possibly have known this stuff. She also recognized this unified message across all the prophets, from Adam to Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, all teaching the exact same thing, the worship of one God. But, that intellectual realization was really just the foundation. Her true emotional turning point came one day when she just happened to turn on the TV. She saw a live broadcast of prayers happening in Mecca. Sheikh al-Sudais was reciting the Quran, and his voice was just trembling with this profound reverence. Millions of people were bowing together in total harmonious unity. Now, Patricia didn't understand a single word of Arabic, but she says her heart and soul understood it perfectly. She just broke down, crying endlessly. She was hit with this absolute, undeniable certainty that God was real and that this was the truth. Section 3. Cost of Change and Absolute Trust. Okay, so taking her declaration of faith wasn't like a magical happily ever after movie ending. It actually created some intense friction in her life. As her faith grew, she realized she just couldn't live a double life anymore. She couldn't wear a hijab in Germany and then take it off to go clubbing with her boyfriend in London. The internal conflict was literally tearing her apart. So she gave him an ultimatum. Either we get married or I leave. And when he said he wasn't ready to marry, she packed her bags and walked away from the whole shebang. It was a harsh reality check. She went from private jets to moving back into a tiny space, suddenly having to cook and clean for herself. Fast forward a little bit, and she finds herself as a divorced mother, hitting absolute rock bottom. She was forced to move to a new city with no money, no job, and zero support. She was starting entirely from zero. But amazingly, this absolute lowest point is exactly what led to a moment of complete surrender and trust in the Creator. Facing potential homelessness, she prayed for guidance on a Thursday and managed to find just one single affordable housing ad. She showed up on Saturday morning, understandably nervous about wearing her traditional hijab in a country with pretty heavy prejudice, but she trusted God. When she got there, the landlord told her she was the first and only person to show up. Why? Because some mysterious system error had completely deleted the messages of every single other applicant. Out of nowhere, she secured this beautiful home with a garden, simply because she trusted completely. No way, right? It's like a giant puzzle piece falling perfectly into place. And it wasn't just her spiritual and living situation that changed. Her physical health did a total 180 too. She had hit rock bottom with severe autoimmune diseases, specifically Hashimoto's and psoriasis. Conventional medicine really wasn't offering much help. But, inspired by a random article her mom sent her, she dove headfirst into holistic health. She discovered the impact of biofilms, which is essentially just sticky dirt in your gut, and she began applying Islamic dietary principles. She realized that food shouldn't just be halal, meaning permissible, but it also needs to be tayyib, which means pure, natural, and wholesome. By eating clean, whole foods and clearing out her gut, she actually reversed her chronic illnesses. She realized that God designed the human body with this incredible innate ability to heal itself. Section 4. True Bliss and the Days of Paradise. Now, Patricia gave up a massive earthly VIP lifestyle. But what exactly does Islamic theology say she was trading it for? Let's unpack the ultimate VIP experience in Jannah, paradise. Think about it. That earthly VIP life Patricia left behind, the jets, the mansions, it was totally temporary. And it came with a lot of internal conflict, anxiety, and this lingering sense of emptiness. The heavenly VIP life, on the other hand, is eternal. Once you cross the bridge and stand before the 8 gates of Jannah, angels greet you with peace. All the earthly pain, the debt, the sorrow, it all just vanishes. You are promised absolute peace, a flawless existence, and utter complete fulfillment. So, here's how that eternal promise actually unfolds across the first 3 days in Jannah. On day 1, believers experience the great transformation. You literally get a flawless body. We're talking the towering height of Adam and the striking beauty of Joseph. You never age, you never get sick, and your very first divine meal includes a super specific delicacy, the liver of a whale, which is described as being incredibly delicious. On day 2, you get to explore your kingdom. Without even needing a map, you intuitively know your way around your massive palaces made of gold, ruby, and emerald. You reunite with your parents, your friends, and loved ones, and you just laugh freely about all the hardships of the past. Then day 3 brings the heavenly market. Now, there's no buying or selling here. It's basically this grand gathering to meet the prophets and the righteous. And as you're sitting there, a gentle breeze called the north wind blows, and it infinitely increases your physical beauty and radiance. Beauty literally poured upon beauty. For sure, it sounds unreal. Section 5. The Addition. Seeing Allah's Face. Okay, so if the first 3 days are all about physical and social luxury, days 4 and 5 are about the ultimate spiritual reward. On day 4, this majestic call echoes through paradise. Millions of people exit their palaces and are met by angels with winged, flying horses made entirely of ruby called Najayib. They fly everyone to this massive, fragrant valley called the Afeh Valley. Here, believers sit on magnificent thrones made of pure light, gold, and pearl. The prophets are sitting right there in the front rows. And then the absolute greatest sound is heard. God himself speaks. He offers his eternal pleasure, stating that he will never, ever be displeased with them again. Imagine that. The relief is just absolute. And that brings us to day 5. This is known as Ziyada, or the Addition. This is the event every single believer prayed for in the middle of the night back on earth. Suddenly, the veil of light is lifted, and believers gaze directly upon the face of God, the Creator, without any barrier whatsoever. The sources describe a joy and awe so incredibly profound that believers would stare for 1,000 years without blinking even once. Compared to this single moment of seeing the divine face, all those golden palaces and heavenly rivers we just talked about, they completely pale in comparison. This is it, the ultimate absolute peak of existence. Which brings us to this really profound question from the Quran, a question that Patricia herself poses to the world. So, where are you going? You know, you can chase earthly goals. You can exhaust yourself building houses, buying fancy cars, and trying to live that temporary VIP life. But at what cost? It's chasing the fleeting, anxious luxuries of this world really worth sacrificing the eternal, flawless perfection of the Creator's promise? Stop for a second today and truly ask yourself, where are you going?